Joining me today is mobile marketing guru and WVU alumnus Bob Bentz. Bob is the president of Advanced Telecom Services, a company he helped lead from startup to $62 million in annual sales with no outside investment. ATS has offices in Philadelphia, Toronto, London, and Prague, and specializes in all things related to mobile marketing. Bob is also the author of 2 books, Opportunity is Calling, How to Start Your Own 900 Number, and most recently, Relevance Raises Response, How to Engage and Acquire with Mobile Marketing. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you for having me.
So you've been coming back to Mountaineer football and basketball games for a long time now, is that right?
Yes, I'm a season ticket holder, and the great thing about WVU is still some of my closest friends are the guys I met on my freshman floor at Dadisman Hall, and we come back and tailgate in the blue lot and go to the games and make a nice weekend out of it.
That's fantastic. We're certainly glad to have you back in Morgantown. So Bob, one of the things that I'm most impressed with is how you built this company from startup zero to $62 million in revenue per year. And in today's day and age, we have a lot of alumni that are out there that are entrepreneurs, that are trying to build companies, that are perhaps thinking about quitting their jobs and starting something new. And I thought you might tell us a little bit about what it was like early on when you actually decided to start this company.
Yeah, well, not everyone has the luxury that I had. My wife had a very good job that could support us for the 2 years and 9 months that I didn't take a salary home, and not everyone has that luxury, so thanks to her, we were able to get to that point. But yeah, there was a lot of tough going those early years. I actually slept on the floor in the office because I didn't want the hotel costs to be the thing that put us under. So I would sleep on the floor in the office and then go to the YMCA in the morning to take a shower and come back and work. There were 3 of us that started the company, 2 guys from Virginia. I was living in Connecticut at the time, and we made it mutually inconvenient and put it in Philadelphia.
It sounds like it was quite the challenge. And of course, mobile marketing didn't even exist then. So what were you doing early on that you ended up evolving into this idea of mobile marketing?
Well, the interesting thing about our company is over the 27-year history, we've kind of served the same people. And that is brands, advertisers, advertising agencies, and media. But when you think about communication over the last 27 years, just think how dramatically it has changed. So in 1989, we were offering interactive telecom services that are really for the landline, because there was only 3 million cell phones in North America at the time. And that, of course, evolved to where in the mid-90s, this thing called the internet came along. And I keep saying that thing's going to catch on one of these days. And then we kind of evolved into being an internet company. And then in 2002, I was over in our London office, and I noticed when people's cell phones rang, they rang with a unique ringtone. Mostly they were Spice Girl ringtones back in 2002. And when I came back, I said, there's this new phenomenon in Europe called ringtones, and we decided to start one of the first ringtone businesses in the United States. We were able to grow that to 60,000 members paying $9.99 a month. So it was a nice hit, and we eventually sold that to a publicly traded company in Canada. But all the time of the 27-year history, we've been involved in some sort of interactive media, some sort of interactive telephone. It's just that it has changed from the landline to the internet, and now more recently to mobile.
That's a fantastic story. The book that you just recently published in March, was it? That it was
correct.
It was published. Relevance Raises Response. How in the world did you decide to write a book? I mean, what was the idea behind actually writing a book?
Right. Well, actually, I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Denver, and it's an online course, of course. And they gave me a book that was 4 years old. Well, when it comes to mobile marketing, if you're looking at a book that's 4 years old in an industry that's really only about 10 years old, it may as well be the Dead Sea Scrolls. I mean, it's ancient history. And I had to supplement that book each week with about 10 to 15 written pages just to bring the book up to date. And when we got to the end of the semester, I realized that, I'm about a third of the way to a book here. Why don't I just take this through and write a real book and go all the way through for it?
So writing the book, is this something that you do kind of at night? I mean, I've always wondered about that, because you obviously, as the president of this large company, you've actually got a real job all day long. So I've always wondered about authors that are able to put out a product like this. And so when did you actually do the writing?
Yeah, I have a bad habit. I'm a night owl. So it was about 10 months worth of work, and usually done between 10 p.m. and midnight each night.
Wow. So this book is about mobile marketing. And before I read the book, I was thinking to myself, what exactly is mobile marketing? And I thought maybe you could tell our audience your thoughts, just from a big picture perspective. What's mobile marketing?
Well, I've seen it evolve. Ringtones were how we got into the mobile business, and then in 2006, when we sold that business, we were sitting there with some pretty good expertise of how to deliver stuff to the cell phone. The problem was, in 2006, 2007, not many of us had smartphones yet. So mobile marketing at that time was really mostly text message marketing. And then, of course, that has evolved over the years to, the biggest phenomena, which has been apps. And apps has really changed the world. Now, for instance, 86% of all accesses to Facebook are done through the Facebook app as opposed to on your desktop. So what we do at the company is everything mobile, the most complex of which is development of apps, the simplest of which is text message marketing, and everything in between, which includes mobile and digital advertising.
You mentioned in your book that people simply can't leave home without their phone. And I know I'm one of those people. I will definitely turn my car around to go back and get my phone, or have real fear if I can't seem to find the phone. So this mobile device, it really becomes part of us. Is that been your experience?
Well, it really is. It's the most personal device that you've ever had. And I liken it to, even if your spouse looks at your phone, you're a little offended by that he or she is invading your privacy. That's why it's the most personal of devices, and hence the title of the book, Relevance Raises Response. So if you can deliver a relevant message to that consumer, you're gonna hit them right in their pockets or right in their purses.
It's interesting that you brought up this title, because relevance. I was going to ask you specifically about that term. When I first saw the title, it was a little odd to me. But then, as I was thinking about how our information has changed, and the transmission of information, it's no longer that you just get information, but it really has to be relevant to what it is that you're wanting at that moment. Is that where you're going with that term?
Yeah, that's correct, and that's what mobile really does better than traditional media. For instance, if I'm watching a television program and they serve me an ad for a feminine hygiene product, that's of no value to the advertiser, because I'm never going to buy that product. I urge you to go to your Facebook app, open it up, and look in that second position in your news feed. There will probably be a sponsored ad there, and my guess is it will be very relevant to your interest, because Facebook knows so much about you. Not only do they know what you've posted online, what you've liked on your Facebook page, but they also know where you're going on the internet, even when you're not on Facebook. Couple that with third-party data, and we can serve you ads that are very relevant to your interests.
I have found that exact thing happening to me on a regular basis. So if I go to Amazon.com and I go look at a product on Amazon.com, within hours, if I go back to Facebook, that product is on my Facebook page. So they're somehow working together, and Facebook knows that I looked at that item on Amazon. So that's how that works. They actually work together then.
Absolutely, because social media, you're probably logged into your social media account because most of our computers and phones remember our passwords because otherwise we would forget them all the time, right? And no matter where you're going on the web, they're tracking where you are. So they know, for instance, that you go visit WVUsports.com quite a bit. We probably know that you are a Mountaineer fan, and it would make sense to serve you a cap, a T-shirt with the Mountaineer logo on it.
It's very interesting. So for a small business, let's talk about small business for a moment. It seems to me then that small businesses can particularly take advantage of this opportunity because they can really narrow down their marketing to the set of the customer set that would be most interested in their particular products, and perhaps they can even do it cheaper than they were able to in the past with newspaper ads and print ads and things of that sort. Is that the case?
That's absolutely correct. And again, another advantage that mobile has over traditional media. If, for instance, you're a restaurant in the western suburbs of Philadelphia, your trading area might be 3 to 5 miles from your restaurant. Nobody's going to drive 40 miles from Delaware or South Jersey where the TV signal goes, where the local newspaper goes. So that's all wasted advertising for you. The beauty of mobile is we can geolocate people. We will only serve them the ad if they're in that 3 to 5 mile radius from your restaurant.
And likewise, have you found that there's are different apps or different products based upon age groups, and how does that work? So would I use Facebook for one particular set of people, and then perhaps use Snapchat for another?
Certainly, Snapchat is going to skew much younger than Facebook. However, we say to everybody, you have to kind of change your thinking when it comes to mobile because we target people, not places. So that's very different. If you wanted to reach males on television, a logical place to go would be NFL games. However, 40% of the NFL audience is female. So you're not really targeting them as well as you probably could. So, we're looking for that woman 35 to 54 who has interest in cosmetics. Well, we can find them, and we don't care if we find them on the ESPN app or in Cosmopolitan magazine.
I see. Now, one of the areas that you talk about in your book, and you talked about this earlier, is the text message marketing. Is that still alive?
Well, text message marketing was mobile marketing when the industry started. It's not sexy anymore, but of everything that we do, if you can only do one thing, I would say it should be text message marketing because the ROI is so efficient. And a lot of people say, "Ooh, I'd never want to, have text coming on my phone for advertisements. It's way too private of a device." Well, that's all true. However, text message marketing as opposed to email marketing, text message marketing is opt-in marketing, meaning that by law, you can only send someone a text message if they have opted into your database and have requested to receive your advertising. And that's simply why it's so darn effective, is that the consumer has said to you, "I like your brand so much, I like your store so much that I want you to send me advertisements."
How has mobile marketing impacted the print media? You don't see as many newspapers around anymore, and magazines, and even our alumni magazine. As I've been talking to our alumni and who reads it and who doesn't read it, and it's expensive. It's expensive for us to send it out. Has it really damaged the print media?
Well, it certainly has. Go out at lunchtime today and look around at the people that are eating alone. How many are looking at their cell phone and how many are reading a newspaper? It's antiquated technology. Still has a place, but it's not the power it once was.
We talked about small business, and presumably, and of course we know that this is important for large business. We also talked about how companies such as Amazon and Facebook are utilizing this. How about nonprofits? How about people like the Alumni Association? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on ways that we might be able to do a better job? We certainly try to transmit information on Facebook, and we use LinkedIn and things of that sort. But what are your thoughts on how we might be able to better utilize social marketing?
Yeah, well, it makes perfect sense because people have a great affinity for their university, especially the graduates like myself of WVU. There's a passion and a link there that will go for a lifetime. And the beauty of this is we can send a relevant message to those alumni and engage them and hopefully acquire donations and the kind of things that the WVU Foundation wants to. It's all about a relevant message being sent to them at the time when they're most likely to act on it.
One of the best campaigns that we've done, I've been here for 6 months now, but one of the best social media campaigns that we did is one that we called Mountaineer Match. And this was on Facebook, and what we did was we asked mountaineers that had met their spouses at WVU to send in a picture and a short story. And what we found was, one, we got a lot of people sending in pictures and telling their story, but the number of likes, the number of shares was bigger than anything that we've ever done. What are your thoughts? Why does something like that have such a big impact out there?
Well, we all have great memories of being here, right? And if you met your spouse here, I guess that just makes it all the better. So people love to hear any kind of love stories.
And there does seem to be a personal aspect of social media. And you talked about the relevance of the message. That relevance is it really has to have this personal interaction. So we don't necessarily think about companies having a personal interaction with us, but perhaps through the mobile marketing, they're actually able to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's important to segment your audience as a brand so that you are delivering the best possible message to that consumer. You're not throwing them all in the same bucket and serving them the same ads as you might have done in the past with traditional media.
So where are you going to go from here? So you've published a book, you've been on your book tour. We're going to have a book signing here this fall in Morgantown. When you come back and talk to some students, we're looking forward to that. But where does this go? Because this book in 4 years perhaps will also be needed to be rewritten.
Oh, it'll need to be written in 1 year. The beauty is I have a website, relevanceraises.response.com, where I'm continuing to update the book. And the other thing that I learned about publishing, which is different than when I wrote my first book, is you can continually update it because every time you purchase a book from Amazon, they print it out at that moment. It isn't like Amazon has a warehouse full of my books sitting there. So the beauty is publishing has become a lot easier to update, and I plan on updating the book each year because I don't want to be using a 4-year-old book in my class.
That's fascinating. I had no idea that they printed books as you order the books. That's
it's all on demand now. So if you find a typo, let me know, and I'll go in and change it tomorrow.
That is fantastic. Now, so our audience can purchase this book on Amazon.com, and they could go to your website. Are there other places that they might find it?
Sure, you can go to Amazon where you can purchase the book itself, and you can also purchase the ebook on Amazon. You can go to my website, relevanceraises.response.com, or you can get it at other fine online book retailers. Fantastic.
Before we finish today, I want to go back to where we started, and that was your time in Morgantown, and ask you for some of your thoughts on how West Virginia University prepared you for the future that now you can look back on has been so successful.
Right. Well, I was in the journalism school here, and one story I always remember is when you had to get accepted to the journalism school from the sophomore to junior year, there was a grammar test that you had to take. And as I recall, all the sophomores took it, and only one passed it. Out of over 100 students, and that got picked up by the national press, who wrote about this and kind of took the angle of, well, all these WVU students, none of them could pass a grammar test, and that wasn't the case. Really, the grammar test was so difficult that it was, you had to go to class at night to brush up on it, take a non-credit course until you could get to the point where you could test it. But the angle that the press took was that none of these WVU students could take it. So then what they did was they called in 10 New York Times reporters to take the same test, and they all failed it.
Oh, that's funny. That is really funny. Well, we've really had some tremendous changes since you and I were here in Morgantown in undergraduate school. And as we look out over the Evansdale campus, you can just see the number of new buildings that we have and things of that sort. And we were just announced by the Carnegie Mellon group that we are an R1 institution, one of only 115 in the country. So West Virginia University has certainly done some great work, especially on the academic side. And so, any thoughts from you for our students that might be out there listening as they're working their way through their particular academic programs?
Well, first I have to say, in looking back on, my life, there's some decisions I made which were good and some maybe not so good. But the decision to come to West Virginia University was one of the best ones I ever made. I think, as an entrepreneur, you control your own destiny, and it's something that every student should consider. I would say to them, get at least 5 years experience in the corporate world before you dive right into it, because you're going to have to get some experience and have some mentorship. I got some of that early in my career, and I think, thanks to WVU and the people that mentored me in my 20s, that's why, my business has been successful.